Now, your patients and their families, our patients and families, would always want the assurance that everything will be addressed, that we will be giving them the service that they expect, of course, in a manner which also communicates empathy. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there is used to a judicious peppering of tangibles to just drive home the point and make it clear and definite that resolutions are being worked on to all these concerns. So what role does the HMO industry play in the daily life of the Filipino? Although small perhaps, but I would like to propose that at least it does its small share to provide better access to healthcare. Perhaps the HMOs could be used as a bridge for more predictable and for more consistent healthcare options. Now, of course, the healthcare, as I would mention, is not at all an absolute solution. It can only serve as a medium, perhaps a vehicle, just to help where we are at right now. The industry is not perfect and will always fall short. But unfortunately, it's being a business by nature. Automatically excludes certain members of the population because it is a business, it is not for all, and it does not give enough coverage the way we would want. Unfortunately, the marginalized and the unemployed sector will not be covered by the industry. And because of this dark side of the business, the industry always gets this question of sustainability. We would rather be expected to cover, and sustainability becomes a secondary concern. But again, if the HMO industry stops being sustainable as a whole, the 3.9% that was already seen in the earlier table that I showed you will be left with another gap in healthcare financing. But the realities of the industry would be accounts that have a 60% utilization of gross revenue are considered good. 60% is already an overhead expense. Industry standard puts average administrative costs at 28%. And commissions, if you do work with brokers, insurance brokers, are at a standard 15%. Now, if you will take the financial statements of all the big companies, you will notice that there is a net margin of anywhere from 2.8 to 3% net margin for the entire industry. Now, if you add the three items, 60 plus 28 to 15, that's already 103. And if you expect a 3% net margin, then you're already down by 6%. So that just goes to show the kind of pressures that the HMOs would actually have to address in order to make it a viable model. Now, the competition is very strong, as will be shown later by the Porter's analysis, and has become very, very price sensitive, in spite of the fact that inflation has more or less been curbed. But the fact of the matter is medical goods and services increase annually by a rate of 15 to 20% every year. Now, the extreme competition within the industry is actually brought about by very strong buyer power, intermediate to strong supplier power, and making the industry very rich and competitive rivalry, and again, quite price sensitive. Unfortunately, this has made price the primary consideration and the kind of service and the ability to give service secondary. And thus, the average relationship between HMOs and their organizations is 3 years. Critical factors for this would be questions on coverage limits, availment procedures, and perceived bad service, which puts the entire relationship down the drain because of shortened relationships and financial pressures. Bad service is shown perceived to be in the form of co-pays, exclusions, late reimbursements, big utilization requirements, and the fact that there are designated doctors in facilities. Then you find that there is a malalignment between the need for healthcare, providing healthcare, and the rational practice of medicine. The business model of both medical insurance and HMO health maintenance organizations is predicated on the simple fact that risks of getting sick and utilization is spread out amongst all its members. So if you have 10 members, only a limited number of members out of the 10, maybe 3 or 4, would be expected to avail of the benefits in order to make the business model work. Now, unfortunately, if one way or the other, every single member out of the 10 utilizes, then the business model will not work. And as a reaction, the business will either have to increase revenue or to decrease overhead by cutting down on their benefits. And this is where I think social entrepreneurship will come in as far as marketing the true face of the HMO industry is concerned. Again, it is by no means an idyllic answer to the nation's health needs, but we can all learn from the American experience with its high finance, Singaporean experience with its very, very rigid clinical practice guidelines, and the socialized structure of the national health system of the United Kingdom, wherein in spite of everything being free, there is quite a lag before you get treated. The marketing the true face of the HMO industry might probably give us the opportunity to learn from these systems and cut a different, more productive path for us. Social entrepreneurship in marketing the HMO industry will be a combination of providers and client organizations working together so that we can improve, take a step forward, and improve on what we have right now towards what we need. Our organization's tagline is Dynamic Partnerships in Philippine Healthcare because of this social entrepreneurship aspect that we'd like to believe in. Of course, there should be ethical business practice in the industry. But again, on the other side, ethics in the utilization of these benefits is needed in order to be maximizing what we have right now. Again, we believe that the country's needs and the way to address this is in evolution. And if so, we can actually learn from the experience of the noted healthcare systems and carve out the true niche that we need for the HMO industry. We intend to engage in this through internal and external marketing by doing provider relations with our doctors, professionals, and healthcare institutions, by encouraging the rational practice of medicine, engaging in customer relations to make more logical the demands and expectations of our client members upon the HMO industry itself, and overall just to promote systems of overutilization and how it affects the greater majority, not only the co-members of your HMO, but the HMOs, the HMO industry as a whole, and the way it plays out in Philippine healthcare. Now, if you are able to engage all these stakeholders, then that goes into interactive marketing, wherein the interaction amongst these will be expected to promote better working relationships. Now, in our effort to further our reach, which is limited by the business aspect of the HMO, we have actually come up with low-cost HMO programs, which is a prepaid health assessment program, which actually comes as a prepaid concept, costing as cheap as 250 to 300 pesos. And then you get a lean HMO coverage type. Now we have begun to explore the non-traditional market. As I've mentioned earlier, 75% of all memberships to HMOs are actually given as employment benefits. So unemployed or contractual workers are actually excluded. Now in the non-traditional market, we have developed a product wherein contractual workers are able to be given HMO coverage, and the premiums are much lower, and the payment is actually accepted on a monthly basis. Now, in summary, marketing management is by definition a means of bringing the industry closer to the stakeholders or its consumers for that matter. Now, I believe that the higher purpose of marketing in the HMO industry basically deals with enlightening all the stakeholders. The industry is indeed in evolution. Perhaps the way we carry this evolution of the HMO industry will be a step towards complementing the government financing programs and other socialized forms of healthcare financing towards universal coverage that the country needs and aspires for. I actually would like to propose an equation. You, the future leaders in health, plus enlightened stakeholders, along with the rational practice of medicine, would actually result in the efficient use of healthcare financing as it is in the Philippines, and hopefully make the shrinking peso a lot bigger than what we think it to be. Or at least until the time that we're able to meet the challenge of providing health for all Filipinos. Thank you. Good day.